What's up guys, welcome back to Deck Tech for Decks. Today we're doing a deck tech on Mondrak. I'm really excited to get into it because we're not doing the traditional token route. We're going to go ETB creatures and try to create token copies of them using artifacts like Blade of Selves and Mimic Vat. That way we get double the values off of the ETBs and it kind of catches our opponents off guard. So if that sounds like a deck tech you'd be into, stick around. Let's jump into it. Alright guys, let's get into these ETBs. We have Solemn Simulacrum. I really like this guy because he's going to go ahead and get us some basic lands and he's going to draw us some cards whenever we die. When we start making token copies of this guy, he's going to ramp us and draw us ahead of our opponents. Lorn of the Third Path is just strictly a better Reclamation Sage that can draw us some cards. I can't wait to cast Cavalier of Dawn and then start making token copies of it. We're going to make the opponents feel like they're playing Golem Tribal. Regal Caracal not only creates token copies whenever it enters the battlefield already, but if we get this on a Blade of Selves, we're talking about an insane amount of token generation and our opponents are not going to be able to come back from it. Not only can Canoptic Scarab Swarm create a lot of tokens out of nowhere, but it's graveyard hate, so all of those graveyard strategies are going to get hosed while our board gets bigger. Mere Battlesphere, another card if we start creating token copies of it, our opponents are just going to get screwed and they're not going to be able to come back. Captain of the Watch. Whenever she enters the battlefield, not only does she create 3 white soldier creature tokens, which is going to turn into 6 with our commander, but she's also a small anthem. Harmonious Archon. This guy can end the game. Not only does he create 2 token creatures whenever he enters the battlefield, which is doubled by our commander, but he's going to turn all of our token creatures into 3/3s. Well, all of our creatures into 3/3s really, but that can be massive. Aerial Extortionist. Another card if our opponents don't get rid of, we can quickly take over the game. We can start not only exiling all of their key pieces, but making them recast it. So they're just going to be sent back to the Stone Age while we get value off of it. And if we start creating token copies of this guy, they're not going to be able to come back because we can just start exiling their whole board. We also have creatures in the deck that value off of creatures entering the battlefield, right? Like Mentor of the Meek that can go ahead and draw us some cards, along with Rumor Gatherer, another one that's going to scry a lot and draw us a lot of cards. Lastly, we do run Elishnorn, right? If you pulled a Mondrak, hopefully you pulled an Elishnorn because Elishnorn's going to be insane in this deck. You're going to double up on all of your tokens and all of your ETB triggers for an insane amount of value. Not only that, but Elishnorn is a pretty good stacks piece. Lastly, we run Soul's Attendant because we're going to be gaining a lot of life whenever all of those creatures enter the battlefield, and we do have some ways to benefit off of that life gain. Additionally, it does cost life for our commander's ability if we do pay the Phyrexian text, which honestly we're gonna do. Let's cover the rest of the token generation of the deck because not all of our token generation is tacked onto an ETB. We have Zerium Golden Wind. I think people sleep on this guy. He deals damage. You're going to get 3 Griffins because of your commander, right? And the next turn, you're going to get 6 Griffins, assuming all of them deal combat damage. Now you're up to 9 Griffins by turn 2. That can be insane and game winning on its own. God Eternal Oketra, whenever you cast a creature spell, create a 4/4 black zombie. Another one that does get doubled by our Elishnorn if we have her on the battlefield. Defiler of Faith is not only going to lower the cost of our white spells essentially, or permanent spells, it's also going to create us 1/1 white soldier creature tokens whenever we cast one of those spells. Ancient Gold Dragon. This one has another game ending ability on it, right? If we roll something pretty high, we're going to create a lot of those little dragon fairy creature tokens that can then end the game. Might Overseer. On top of giving all of your tokens +1 and first strike, it's just really good in the deck, so good it can go infinite. I'll cover that infinite combo at the end of the video, that way people that want to see the rest of the deck tech can just move on, right? Felidar Retreat. This one's really good whenever a land enters the battlefield. We can either buff our whole team up, or we can create a 2/2 cat creature token. Another card that does get buffed off of Elishnorn and doubled. Myriel Shield of Argive, another stacks piece that's really useful, and this one does go insane, right? We can attack with her, create a bunch of soldier tokens, and then next turn more and more and more, and it's one of those Krinko scenarios where it gets out of hand really quickly. Hero of Bladehold. I really like the attack trigger to create tokens because not only does that get doubled, but if we can create tokens of her and attack with them, oh man, then we're in business. Leonin War Leader. This guy's just a strictly better version of Hero of Bladehold. We get 1/1 cat creature tokens with lifelink. Additionally, as I said earlier, if we strap a Blade of Selves onto this guy, or a Mimic Vat, we're going to create a lot of tokens with them. Worm Coil Engine. I included this guy because our commander is a sack outlet, right? We have to sacrifice stuff to activate his ability. So if we're sacrificing Worm Coil Engine, we can get 12 power out of nowhere. Additionally, that's just on its face if we're not creating token copies of this with Mimic Vat or Blade of Selves, because then this card just gets nutty. Finally, we have Luminarch Ascension. 2 mana for 8 power is insane. What is your opponent going to do against that? Notably, you can keep all of this mana open too until your upkeep, and then boom, just blast a whole lot of angels onto the battlefield on your opponent's instep, and then as soon as your upkeep happens, boom, you've got a lot of angels, and they essentially have haste that way. So enjoy that. Alright, we've gone over the ETBs, we've gone over the token creatures, but let's talk about how we're going to turn our creatures into token. Obviously, we have Blade of Selves. I've been talking about it through the whole video. Mimic Vat, again, I've been mentioning it here and there. Soul's Foundry makes you pay the mana cost of it, but it doesn't go away at our instep, so it's a little better than Mimic Vat in my opinion, because we can keep using it and just our board's going to get massive. Helm of the Host. You guys knew this would be here. This guy has the same interaction with Helm of the Host as Adrix and Nev. I think after 4 turns, you can't even evaluate the number of tokens you would have created if this is equipped to your commander by a number. So yeah, that's pretty insane and will win you the game if your opponents just let it happen. Lastly, we have God Pharaoh's Gift and Gate of the Afterlife. Gate of the Afterlife can fill your graveyard whenever your creatures die, which again, our commander is a sack outlet, so we're going to loot off of that. And then we can sacrifice it to find God Pharaoh's Gift. And then God Pharaoh's Gift is that perfect late game card that can bring all of our best stuff back from our graveyard to the battlefield to close out the game. Alright guys, let's look at the supporting cards of the deck. We have Open the Armory. I really like this because it can not only get a Skull Clamp, but it can get us that Blade of Selves. The most powerful cards in the deck this card can find. Enlightened Tutor, same thing, right? We can search up any artifact or enchantment we need, so it's really flexible. Divine Visitation is going to turn all of our tokens into 4/4 angels, so that's pretty cool. Sun Titan just recurs a lot of the deck, right? A lot of white decks are low to the ground, which this one definitely is, so this can hit like a good percentage of our deck. Guardian of Faith. This is one of the only creature cards that can protect us from board wipes in a creature token strategy. If you imprint this guy on Mimic Vat, they're going to have to get rid of that Mimic Vat before they even think about wiping your board. Celestine the Living Saint is also solid recursion in the deck. Once we start being able to gain like 4 life, that's all we'll need to do to get the most impactful creatures from our graveyard back onto the battlefield. Alright, let's cover the card draw. We have Esper Sentinel. This is just a white staple, and mono white, we don't have a lot of options, so we definitely throw it in there. Battle Angels of Tyr. This one's really good in the deck because that Myriad ability, right? Our commander is going to see that and create double the amount of tokens. So now we're going to get double the value off of Battle Angels of Tyr. Archivist of Ogma. There is a lot of searching libraries in Commander, so this card can draw us a ton of cards and gain us a lot of life, honestly. Benny Brack's Zoologist. There's a good chance we can trigger this 4 times a rotation, right? As long as we're creating a token every turn, we're gonna be drawing a card every turn. Skull Clamp, one of the best cards in the deck. We're creating little tokens, so Skull Clamping those off to draw 2 cards is one of the best things you can do in Magic. Elaine Harbree's Busybody. This girl's amazing. We're gonna be able to look very deep into our library and pick the best cards every time. Smuggler's Share. Not only is our commander gonna double up on those treasure tokens, but we're gonna get some card draw while we're creating a lot of treasure tokens, right? Sword of Forge and Frontier. I like this card because it's not only ramp, but it is card draw, right? We're gonna go ahead and impulse draw the 2 cards of our library, and then we're gonna be able to play an additional land in mono white, which is pretty crazy to me. Lastly, we have Court of Grace. Once you become the Monarch, I'd really like to see someone take it from you. We're gonna be going really wide, creating a lot of tokens, and our opponent's really not gonna be able to attack into that. Moving on to ramp, we have Marble Diamond. I like the diamond cycles because the whole point's to ramp on turn 2. We don't really care that it enters tapped. Arcane Signet, just a really good mana rock that comes down on turn 2. Soul Ring, maybe you've heard of it. Staff of Titania. This is a really clever way to use our commander to double up on our ramp, right? Because we're going to be creating 2 of those green 4-strad creature tokens that are also lands. Smothering Tithe. This card's insane in the deck because we're going to double up on all of those treasure tokens. Monologue Tax, another one where we're doubling up on creating treasure tokens. Treasure Map, right? More treasure tokens. That's all we want to do. Notably, this one turns into a land afterwards that we can sacrifice our treasure tokens to draw cards. Ashnod's Altar, just really simple. Sacrifices those tokens, draw a lot of cards. Oketra's Monument, this is going to make all of our white spells cost less and create creature tokens. Moving on to removal, we have your standard stuff like Swords to Plowshares, Disenchant, Generous Gift, notably that one targets permanents, which I'm really fond of. Elspeth's Sun's Champion, just a staple in tokens deck because it can be a one-sided board wipe. Path to Exile, another solid removal spell. Then we have cards like Martial Coup. This one's really good because we're going to create 10 tokens instead of 5. Finally, we have White Sun's Twilight. And this card is insane in the deck because we're going to create 10 of those little Phyrexian Mites, right? So if those opponents don't get a board state, we're going to take someone out of nowhere, which can be pretty fun after a board wipe. And that's going to do it for the deck tech, guys. Please remember to comment, like, and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow, and I'll see you in the next one.